Today's town hall is the first time a conversation between presidential candidates and impacted people on criminal justice reform has taken place during this election season. You were the first candidate to commit to coming to our town hall today. Why are you here today, and why have you chosen to prioritize this in your campaign to be the next president of the United States?
Thank you, Reverend. One, it is about my life's work, and it is also about what I know that if we are going to be a nation that is true to our stated values, which includes a stated value to care about humanity, the values that include issues like the age-old concept of redemption. If we are to be true to those values, then we know that the criminal justice system of America and the incarceration system in America has not been humane and has not lived up to those values and must be reformed. Redemption, an age-old concept, right? In the Christian faith, but in many religions, which says, because it knows everyone will make a mistake. For some, that will rise to the level of being a crime. But is it not the sign of a civil society that you allow people their way to earn their way back and give them the support? So yes, there will be accountability, but there also must be a path. And I have visited many prisons. I know what has been going on in the system, which is why way back when, I made a very conscious decision to become a prosecutor, knowing how broken and how unjust the criminal justice system of America can be. And so when I was in a position where I didn't have to ask anybody permission, when I was the elected DA of San Francisco, I created one of the first in the nation reentry initiatives, focused on what we must do, understanding that we have to allow people a way to come back to the community, and give a path that includes focusing on education, focusing on job skills development, focusing on housing, focusing on the fact that so many are parents who have a natural desire to parent their children, even if not the resources or the skills. And so knowing that you were hosting this forum, and I am now running for president, I just wanted to come and be a part of this conversation and lend whatever I could to this important gathering of leaders. So thank you.
Thank you. So just to follow up on that a little bit, I'm going to read you a quote that you may recognize.
Yeah.
America has a deep and dark history of people using the power of the prosecutor as an instrument of injustice. I know this history well, of innocent men framed, of charges brought against people without sufficient evidence, of prosecutors hiding information that would exonerate defendants, of the disproportionate application of the law. Do you recognize that quote?
Yes, I do.
This is from your recent memoir.
Yes, those are my words.
And I want you to reflect kind of on the theme of redemption that you just brought up,
Yeah.
and the fact that there are progressives who are looking at some of your prosecutorial record and identifying moments that didn't seem so progressive to them. And wondering how you reconcile that with the decisions you have to make as a prosecutor, and what has changed since that time. What have you learned through the process of having to make hard decisions that didn't please everybody?
Well, there's so much, thankfully, that has changed since that time. Remember, when I decided to become a prosecutor, because frankly, one should know themselves. I knew I wasn't so good asking permission. And I knew I wanted to be in a role where I could implement change in the criminal justice system. And so I decided to, go up the rough side of the mountain and go inside, where I could make decisions. And so when I made a decision to create Back on Track, it was one of the first in the nation. And as you know, folks, when I was elected DA back in 2003, which are the dark ages compared to where we are now in terms of what the country understands we need by way of reform. And so when I created that initiative, people would say to me, why are you giving them jobs? Other people who have not committed any offense need jobs. People would say to me, you're supposed to be a prosecutor, which means you're supposed to be locking people up, not letting them out. And so, but it took a force of will, and I took some hard knocks for it, to say, no, we need to do better. And because I literally pulled out a yellow pad and wrote down and created the program. I said, I know, for example, 18 through 24-year-olds, so many have now been felons for life and branded felons for life because they took a path that appeared to them to be their only path of economic opportunity, which was to sell drugs. And now they are felons for life. I looked at the fact that there were so many who were being arrested. And I said, I'm going to create a program around that population, knowing that 18 through 24, if they were in another circumstance, such as in college, Ari, they'd be called college kids. But when they're in the system and you turn 18, you're considered an adult, period. Even though we know when they're 18 through 24 in college, what do? We put them in dormitories with a resident assistant. Because we know, and sometimes a curfew, because we know they may not make the decision sometimes. But for that same population when they're on the street, their entire life can be faced with the burdens of lengthy incarceration, of being prohibited from voting, from being banned from having access to federal resources, including everything from student loans to SNAP to getting able to get a job or qualify for the certificate that is necessary to take on the job that will allow you dignity and a way to support your family. So I created this program. And it included bringing in folks like the building trades, right? The ones who had the apprenticeships, the carpenters were amazing. It included bringing in lawyers to teach these young people, men and women, their rights around. I used to teach street law, so we were teaching them about landlord-tenant and laws like that, so they would have the power that they needed. And we ended up reducing their recidivism by such huge proportions that it became a national model. The Holder Department of Justice designated my program as a model of innovation for law enforcement in the United States. And I knew this work was possible. I knew the work was possible that we did later when I became Attorney General. I wanted to take it statewide. So in the California Department of Justice, which I ran, which is the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, we started a recidivism reduction and reentry division of the State Department of Justice, creating incentives for counties around the state of 40 million people to do exactly what we knew could be done to help re-enter folks. And we also created, because again, I didn't have to ask anybody permission, I was running the agency. So we also created a data collection system. Tell me about deaths in custody. Tell me how many deaths in custody, where. Answer the questions of how those deaths in custody are occurring. Because otherwise the families know, often can't get answers, but the system is not holding itself accountable.
So Senator, I want to jump in.